Hi, everybody. It's really good to see you all today. I am hoping that we have a few more people join us. I need to check and see how many people we have. We have 14 participants. So when we do breakout rooms today, unless we have a few more, I'll probably do 2. There's a few things I want to talk to you about today, and then we're going to do a Kahoot quiz for fun and extra credit, and I'm going to share how that's a little bit different and how to write your name a little bit differently. I've had some funny names in the past, but we can't do that today. So I'm going to share how to do that with you. And I saw this morning there was a little article about how to do Kahoot as a split screen, but I really didn't have time to read through those instructions, but I did include them here. It's Kahoot using one screen to Zoom and play. So I'm going to ask you to please look that over so that next week when we get on, if we have a Kahoot quiz, you can practice using one screen if you need to. If you do not have a second screen that you can use, right today, and like I said, it could be 2 phones, like where you borrow your sister's phone or your mother's phone or father's or whatever. If you don't have another screen, you'll just, and you could write some little answers down on a piece of paper for yourself. But I also have the questions copied down on a separate little Google Doc for myself, and when I do breakout rooms, I am going to send those questions to the breakout rooms so that you guys can pick and choose what you'd like to discuss for today. So that's how I've decided to do it, and I like to share that, especially with my teacher track classes, so that they know what it is they need to be doing. All right, so the first thing that I want to share with you is that I discussed last week about the film called The Human Stain, and I was able to get a link to the film from the school, and they wanted you to know that the cover is incorrect, but the film is correct. So don't get nervous when you say, oh my gosh, that shows a different film. It is The Human Stain. I do want to share that I would like you to please prepare 4 to 6 questions for the Zoom breakout rooms for next week. And I'm going to have a place for you to turn in those questions for credit, whether or not you're able to be in Zoom or not. I want you to turn those in. I do not have that assignment up, but I will. The topic of the question should pertain to the literary elements and how the film compares to our novel. I do want to share that this film is not for children nor young teens, and I do not recommend that you watch it, probably not even in front of your parents if you're able to have some privacy, because the film, the main topic is really a wonderful topic, and it is shown and written really well, but there's a subplot that helps drive the main plot that it is actually important as well, but it includes nudity, and it is kind of dark, and it's meant for mature audiences, and you might be embarrassed to watch it with your parents. So this is like one of those films where you want to go into your bedroom and just watch it by yourself. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there just so that you can make choices for yourself. Okay, and then I want to share before we get into Kahoot, I meant to move this up, it's not that big of a deal. Passing Part 2 Re-Encounter Discussion Forum is on Canvas. It is utilizing theory, including race studies, feminism, and queer theory. And it's a discussion forum, and it is on Canvas and ready to go. And your items in Canvas for this week, including the weekly discussion checklist. The assignment needs to be put up there, but the checklist is here. I told you I was working this morning, and I realized there was a few things I didn't have, including the checklist, but it is there now. And your Kahoot Challenge Reader Response Theory is also here now as well. Any questions?
Professor,
Yes, any
I have a
questions?
question about reader response. Do we need to fill out a graphic organizer for reader response, or do we just do the
No,
Kahoot?
just the Kahoot,
Okay.
just the theory, yeah, just the challenge. But I will share with you, one of the things that's interesting about reader response theory, as a teacher, I want you to recognize this, is that when I started teaching, reader response theory was huge. So it's a big part of the way that I teach students. And I did not recognize that until after the fact. I knew that it was something that I knew that the activities that I gave were things that I believed in pedagogically, but I didn't recognize that they were part of reader response theory until I actually got the Parker book and recognized that there was a chapter called reader response theory. And then it made me metacognitively aware that I am a product of that as a teacher. And there were some teachers who came before me who really didn't subscribe to that at all and wondered why I taught the way that I did. And I didn't really have a good response for that until I read that chapter. So as teachers, it's a really useful chapter. Any other questions for you? Or for me, sorry. Any other questions that you might have for me? All right, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna give you a moment to get onto Kahoot. And I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna turn on the little music for it because I enjoy that. Here's the pin. What I want you to do is put your first name, your whole last name, and whether you're in my Monday, Wednesday, or my Tuesday, Thursday. So you could put MW or T Tuesday, Thursday, however you want to write it, but I need to know your first and last name and whether you're in my Monday, Wednesday class or my Tuesday, Thursday class.
What if it doesn't fit?
Just then do the first part. So you could put Gabriella OR and then put MW
Okay.
or T or Tuesday or something. So Natalie, can you go back and let me know which class you're in? Thank you.
I had, but I don't think
Gabriella M, yeah, I definitely need to know Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. That's really critical. Thank you. Natalie, I'm gonna ask you to go back and fix that. Even if you have to click out and then come back in, we'll wait. Okay. I'm expecting about 14, I think. So, and there will be extra credit for the top 3. And so this Kahoot quiz is courtesy of David. This is his first Kahoot quiz. And so David, what you're going to notice, and I'm allowing it to go through, and because this is how you learn, okay, is that you may see a question and students may not get the correct answer. And so you have to determine, are they not getting the correct answer because of the way you wrote the question and the responses, or are they not getting the question correct because they didn't do the assignments? And so you have to kind of take a look at that and make a decision about it. Okay. I'm gonna wait maybe one more minute because I know that we have some interpreters in this particular session.
Is that standard 6?
Pardon?
Is that standard 6?
I'm sorry.
Developing as a professional educator?
Yes, yes. But I mean, I'd have to look at, I don't know the names of all the standards. I have to look at them again. David, you have them like, is it numbers? I'm like, I don't know. I have to look. But I will tell you though, the truth is that the best teachers are the ones who understand that they make mistakes and let students know that they make mistakes and are completely transparent about it. And then students are very forgiving of it. But if you are very much an I gotcha kind of person, then students are like, they get very defensive about when you make a mistake. So having that sort of attitude that we all make mistakes, you know, and you make corrections. And the way that you can make a correction, we'll start in a minute. The way that you can make a correction is you can decide to either have the quiz only count as extra credit, or you can give a couple of extra points for the question that you felt was not good. Or you can just take out those particular points. It's up to you. You just want to choose something that's equitable and easy for you. So constantly looking at something that's easy for you is great. Okay, we're going to start. Let's do this. And I think I'm going to make the pictures of us. I'm going to hide the thumbnail so that I can get us out of the way. Let's get started. Are you ready to rumble? All right. Number 1, why is Irene apprehensive over opening Claire's letter in chapter 1? All right, so normally I talk about the answers to these questions in between Kahoot items, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to say the correct answers, and then you can have a chance to discuss it during the breakout sessions. Okay, so the correct answer is both B and C, because Irene does not know what Claire wants, and because Irene's last encounter with Claire was unpleasant. If you as a student feel like a question isn't clear, you can take down some notes as well, and we can give that feedback to David later on. All right, Clarissa. True or false? Irene passes in order to gain access to the Drayton Hotel in chapter 2. That is absolutely true, and I hope that you have a discussion about this in your breakout room, because this is really an important plot point about Irene passing on occasion. All right, Estrella. What does Irene feel for the woman sitting at the table next to her at the Drayton Hotel? Envy. Estrella is still up there. All right. True or false? Irene's perception of the woman at the table changes once she realizes that it is Claire. All right, the answer is true. Estrella, look at you. In what way does Irene's perception change once she knows the woman is Claire? All right, so she now views Claire as black instead of white. All right, people are changing positions, but Estrella still has the highest answer streak. Congratulations, Estrella. What are Irene's feelings towards Claire's permanent passing? All of the above: anger and shame, curiosity and desire, envy, and jealousy. That's a good question to discuss as well. All right. True or false? Irene suffers from internalized racism. Okay, so the answer is true. I would like to share a couple of things. When we live in a society where there is inequity, all of us suffer from internalized bias. So women tend to suffer from internalized sexism. People of color tend to suffer from internalized racism. We all have certain bigotry that we have to work through, even if our goal is not to be bigoted, okay? So yes, Irene suffers from internalized racism. All right, Mia's moving forward. True or false? Irene tells the truth when she says to Claire that she has never thought about passing. False. All right. In chapter 3, why does Claire say that she does not want to have any more children?
Somebody took a fart. Hey, be quiet.
All right, she is afraid that they will be born without dark or with dark skin, and she doesn't want to be found out. All right. What is John Bellew's nickname for Claire? Yes, the correct answer is the blue rectangle. That is his nickname. All right, Caroline's moving on up. Why is John's nickname for Claire ironic? Yes, because she really is African American. All right, good job. True or false? Irene thinks Claire is inconsiderate for not telling her about her husband's racist views. That is true. How does Irene describe Claire's parting glance at her at the end of chapter 3? Both B and C, mocking and menacing. All right. True or false? Claire envies Irene for not passing. Yes, that is absolutely true. She misses being in her community. Oh, Caroline overtook. Congratulations. How would you describe Irene and Claire's relationship at this point in the story? Tumultuous. All right, last question. Why is Irene's predominant feeling towards her yet to be seen husband? All right, the answer is discontentment. That's a good question to discuss. And don't always choose all of the above. All right. Okay, let's see. Congratulations, Roxana. Congratulations, Estrella. I'm like, I knew it was Caroline, but I was waiting for that. All right. Congratulations, everybody. All right. So, David, you may want to take a picture out of this. Take a look at that as well. All right. I'm going to save the feedback too and share that as well.
Yes. This is annotation.
That way you can take a look at it later.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'm going to move back to here, and I want to show us again. All right, everybody, congratulations to those who earned some extra credit. I am going to stop sharing the screen, and I am going to place you in breakout rooms. And while you're in the breakout rooms, I'm actually going to copy and paste the questions into the chat. So I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms. You can go to the breakout rooms, choose a facilitator to discuss the questions, and I will put the questions into the chat momentarily, just after putting you into the breakout rooms. Okay, so let me see. So for the captioners, I'm just letting you know Daryl is not here, so I'm not moving anybody around. I'm going to open all the rooms. I'm going to give you probably 5 to 7 minutes to discuss. I'm trying to have our meeting end by 10:15, and I'm going to ask each of the two groups to please share 1 or 2 things that you discussed. I will get those questions into the chat in just a moment. When I open the rooms, please join. Hi, everyone. All right. We only have partial. We're getting the rest back hopefully soon. Either that or we lost some people, and that's okay. All right. Okay, so I think we started, okay, we're getting more, okay, we're getting people back. All right, fantastic. So we just have a few minutes left. Sorry about that. I figured my copy and paste into the chat would work, but now I know it doesn't. And teachers, just so you know, that's where the learning comes in. I figured I could copy and paste something to the chat. I didn't want you to have the questions ahead of time because I wanted you to do the Kahoot quiz. Anyway, so what did you guys discuss? I'll wait.
Gabriella, did you want to talk about what we discussed? I don't want to always be talking.
Well, in our breakout room, we were talking about how it's kind of for how the question where it talks about that Irene is envious of Claire. I personally think that she's not. Like, David brought up a point that she's envious of like her life as a whole, not specifically Claire. But like, I get that, but the question was more like, was she envious of Claire? And I think she's just, like David said, she's more judgmental towards her, not envious in a sense. That's one of the things we talked about.
I'm glad you talked about that. I would say I think she's actually envious, and the proof for that is how judgmental she is. I think that we tend to be judgmental towards people that we're envious of, and it pops out in that way. And I'm not saying that every time we're judgmental of people, it means that we're envious of them. But I mean, she's just constantly thinking about Claire and Claire's life and Claire's choices. And I think she is envious. It's not that she would choose to completely pass, but the idea of passing is extremely, and we're going to talk about this more as you read more of the book. The aspect of passing is extremely controversial because those people who are able to pass are those who were given more privileges because they appeared to be more white. However, those people that were able to pass were those people who were also the ones who were raped and taken advantage of, and they weren't able to hide as well. So it's kind of, there's like this really mixed bag with skin color and privilege within the African American community at that time. And I wouldn't even just say within the African American community, any community that is not white, there is this viewpoint and vision about color. And even if you were to look on television shows with people who are Latinx, and the color of those people who are considered to be the most quote unquote beautiful people tend to be lighter skinned. And that may have changed in the last few years, but 20, 30 years ago, even within the Latinx community, being darker skinned was not something that was considered to be a quote unquote valuable trait. And it all stems back to this issue of racism. And so Claire is not allowed to pass anymore unless she is by herself. unless she chose to leave her husband. Okay, so Claire is able to pass in a different way than Irene. Did any of you talk about the fact that Irene passes and yet she's judgmental about it and the irony of that?
We talked also about how Gertrude is kind of in between Irene and Claire. She kind of fits as I would say like a mediator. Like she is married to a white man who knows that she is part African American, but she's still terrified that her children will come out with dark skin.
Right.
And she desires, I mean, I don't know if Gertrude like passes as in the typical sense of the word, but I think she definitely desires that she wants her children to be able to pass.
Right. Well, it's this very similar sort of bias that people don't recognize, similar to parents who go, I love my gay children. I just would prefer they wouldn't be, because life would be so much easier if they were straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually an extremely biased and heteronormative viewpoint. And it's very similar. That's the internalized racism, right? Or there's internalized racism. There's internalized sexism. There's such as women, whether they stay home with their children or don't stay home with their children. There's this internalized viewpoint about what should be done. Maybe the question shouldn't be whether women should stay home and raise their children. The question might be, do we have a society that supports any stay-at-home parent, regardless of the gender of that parent? And maybe we should have that sort of society that supports that, or maybe supports that if you are in a family with children, that you should have the 40-hour work week, but it should be however you want to divide the hours, you can divide the hours, right? So different, encouraging different ways of looking and seeing and valuing and questioning our own assumptions. I would like to ask, is there anything from anybody from the other group who is willing to share what you guys discussed? I normally take a picture of the breakout rooms, but I did not today.
Well, some of our group members were saying that we had to read the where we are right now, like 2 times to even understand what passing means. That it kind of was confusing to us.
Good. I'm actually glad that you needed to slow down and think about that. And we are going to be talking about passing more next week. So if you are unclear as to what passing is, I would like you to look it up. And if you find a really good source, I highly recommend you look it up in the Cerritos College Library online. And if you find a really good source about passing, I would like to invite you to share that in Pronto and share where you found it, whether you found it via, Googling it or found it in the library. And I will probably give some extra credit for those people who have found some good sources, So first come, first served. The first few people to share some articles about passing would be great. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I did not want to tell you what passing was before you started reading the book. I wanted you to discover it on your own, and then wanted to then go back and take a look and see what passing was. So that was intentional, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
Okay. Well, may I interject something?
Yes.
So I wanted to say kind of like it might help for the remainder parts of the novel to remember that Claire and Irene's relationship is neither one thing nor another, and that it is important to remember that their relationship is constantly changing, and that their interactions are never like completely negative, but they're not always completely positive. So try and like view their interactions in as objective a light, and try not to think, oh, I know what to expect, how they're going to interact moving forward. Try and keep an open mind to how the different scenes will play out. And sometimes when they're in the same scene together, feelings will change.
Right.
Like they won't.
They're emotionally connected.
Yes.
They knew each other growing up. So there's this emotional connection. And you can think about that. I'm really glad you brought that up, David, and then we'll end our meeting. I'm really glad you brought that up. And the way that you can understand that is think about your relationship with your parents, your own parents, how much you love them, but despise them too, right? And all of us have that. I mean, I feel it for my children too. My daughter, who's almost 14, it doesn't matter what I say. It's the fact that I talk it all. There's this despising aspect to it, but not all the time. There's times where I can tell that she likes me and times when she doesn't. And it's this, because the nature of a parent-child relationship, there is bound to have that intense love and intense hate and intense jealousy and intense, all of just these feelings that come out. So that's very similar. The same with if you are in a relationship with someone, right? My husband, love him and hate him, sometimes at the same time, right? So, and he feels the same way about me. That's just normal. So
same quarantine.
right. Oh gosh, yeah. Layer. So David is absolutely correct to encourage you to see this story as dynamic. I also want to say one last thing, that you could use a queer theory lens on this story. You could use a feminist lens in this story. You can use a race conscious lens in this story and have 3 completely different analyses to this story, and every single one of them be correct. And that is what is beautiful about a well-written piece of literature, is that you can use multiple theories and have multiple analyses. And you can even have a queer theoretical analysis that is different from somebody else's. That's what's beautiful too. So the key with these analyses, though, is that you need to use quotations and details from the text to support your reading, and your theoretical analysis is the reading between the lines. It's your subtext to analyze what you think is going on. So if you don't think that Claire is envious of Irene, I'm fine with that, as long as you can support it. And so that would go back to David, and you might say, yeah, so maybe that question could be slightly reworded, because there could be maybe more than one point of view on that. I'm just throwing something out there. Okay. It is wonderful to have seen you all, and I wish you a great week. Take care. Please make sure you see that human stain, just maybe by yourself. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.